He says he wheelbarrowed 75 wheelbarrows.
No, he didn't do it personally. He paid someone to do it.
Oh, he told me,
All
he
right,
told me he
everyone,
did
if
it.
you could take your
Backbreaking.
seats, please. We're going to go ahead and call the Common Council meeting to order. If I could get you to all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve, if you'd be kind enough to help us with the roll call, please.
Sure. Mike, can you unmute, please? There we go. Alderperson Saloga.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Baldy.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Grimmer.
Here.
Kesson.
Here.
Iker.
Here.
And Mayor Atwell.
Present.
And Administrator Hafner.
Here.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to item number 4, citizens' comments. If any citizens, come on up, sir.
Okay, I don't know if everybody saw this. So, obviously I support motorcycling. My name is John Wiedenbeek, I live at 908 Sunset Drive. But I would like to say first that I think when Tom Hafner brought up putting bumps up in the street for crosswalks is a good idea, because I know it helps me riding my motorcycle, so it prevents people from trying to get alongside of me on the right and making a right-hand turn. Otherwise, I like to drive from center of the road to the left side of the road, of the lane, center of the lane, to the left side of the lane. Yeah, otherwise I got to guard against and go to the right-hand side of the lane. Which, to me, that means I'm not going to be seen as easily. But I'm hoping that whoever's paying attention over YouTube is going to notice that they should start looking for motorcycles. It's not like we're going to disappear anytime soon. 3 times this year, I started on March 4th. I felt that my right-of-way was violated. What I really don't want to end up being is a casualty of any sort, riding in the fire department's rescue squad. So I know like in 2018, which was the 150th anniversary celebration for Harley, I tried to contact the Chamber of Commerce, and all she did was turn her back on me. So I feel that the Chamber has a lot to do with traffic through downtown, over on 83 and 94. And the safest I felt lately was last spring when the stay-at-home order, as far as traveling any of these roads, main roads that come into the city. And I'm just hoping that presenting this, people will notice that motorcycles are out on the road again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any other citizens' comments? Steve, anybody raising their hand online? Nobody is raising their hand online?
Nobody's online.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no other comments or raised hands, citizens' comments are now closed. Okay, item number 5, the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes.
Who seconded that? Okay.
Okay, I am going to jump out of order here and go to 9B and ask the police chief to come on up and go over his presentation for us.
It's actually not going to be me. I assigned the annual report this year to Lieutenant Iron as part of career development, so he getting some experience at that aspect of the job and the management. So he's going to present to you the big change is the change of crime reporting from uniform crime reports to incident-based reporting. So I had also assigned that to Lieutenant Iron to get us squared away and compliant with those regulations. So he seems like the best person to actually talk about this. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Iron.
Thank you. Yeah, going over our annual report this year, the biggest change you'll see is in how we're handling the reporting of our incidents to the state and federal government. In the past, we've always had these charts that cover things like robbery, assaults, burglary, larceny, and other thefts. And that's not really going to change. What is changing is the amount of data we're gathering in regards to those incidents and how it's validated and transmitted to the state. So what we're switching from is summary-based reporting, which is just this crime happened and whether or not it was cleared or solved. We're switching to something called incident-based reporting, which not only accounts for what crimes occurred, it's how many offenders were involved in a particular crime, specifics related to age, gender, race, and both victims and offenders, as well as a elaboration on how offenses are cleared and the requirements for getting a clearance. And so as we move forward in 2021, all of our incidents will be handled through the IVR system. We started transitioning in April of last year as a test run with the state in order to gain certification. We have yet to obtain that certification because they have a backlog of about 350 police agencies in the state that they're currently certifying. Because it's mandatory in 2021, so everybody's doing it now. The biggest changes are covered on page 8. I compare our theft and larceny statistics for the time frame from April to December, and you'll see that the numbers don't exactly match up because some items were taken out of theft and larceny, like theft by fraud, which we do have a fair amount of in our city. And the clearance rate also shows a drastic difference. And the big factor there is what can count as a clearance has changed. So a lot of our thefts are reported from our big box stores down at 83 and I-94. And in the past year, we've had an increase in after the fact reporting. And as you can imagine, it's very difficult to identify suspects now as everyone is wearing a mask. So when we're getting this increase in after the fact, the solvability is already reduced, and now throw in the fact that people are wearing masks, it shows a lower clearance rate. Also, if we do clear it with an arrest, those arrests usually come months after the incident, and so it doesn't count as a clearance until months down the road. So our clearance rates aren't contemporaneous with the actual offenses. That, in conjunction with this being a new system, working with our county jail on accurate reporting and accurate data entry, we'll get there, but it does show a difference in the clearance rate. So it is very stark. It's about a 30% difference in clearance rates. However, even at that reduced rate, we are above the national average on clearances. In the theft and in overall, we're significantly above the national averages on clearance rates still under the new system and moving forward. Other basic things we obviously covered is our officer shooting in 2020. Something that we all hoped would never happen in our agency, but we are prepared to handle. And the biggest thing we want to do is thank the dozens of agencies and hundreds of officers that responded to Delafield to not only support us in that time of need, but catch the person that did because that was not only a danger to law enforcement, but to the community at large. And we just want to thank those officers and the several citizens that partook in getting that person into custody. Those individuals, both officers and citizens, will be celebrated this year during the award ceremony, and they will get the recognition that they so deserve during that incident. Other big changes, you will note that while our incidents continue to rise, we're handling more day-to-day calls. Our citations did significantly reduce in 2020. One of the major reasons was, as the earlier citizens' comment suggested, traffic volumes during the pandemic were drastically reduced. With the stay-at-home orders, traffic was much less on the roadway, and also during the first portions of the pandemic, we weren't pushing officers to make those face-to-face contacts unless it was a serious safety concern. So registration violations were actually by law extended. We could not make traffic stops for registration violations or unregistered vehicles because the DMV wasn't processing registrations in a face-to-face manner. And so you will see a reduction in traffic stops just as a result of our actions during the pandemic and the actions of drivers out there. Those are the big changes. And then the last one, obviously, was the success of the referendum in 2020. We had planned for the eventuality of staffing reductions, but fortunately the citizens spoke and continued funding us at our current levels, and we appreciate that, and we know that they have entrusted us to continue providing the types of service we have over the past decades, and continue to improve, continue with our efficiencies, and we just once again wanted to thank the citizens for their trust and their support in that matter. Any questions on the report? Be happy to answer.
You have a question? It's
Yeah.
Lieutenant, right?
Correct.
Okay. So with incidents, is that calls in, or is that responses to events, or how is the number tabulated?
For our total incidents, it's anytime someone calls or anytime an officer initiates an activity. So it could be a call for a shoplifting, a medical assist, or it could be a traffic stop, an extra patrol of a business, a walk or check of a park, walks through the schools. Anything the officer is doing that takes their time away from, paperwork. It's essentially anything that isn't paperwork related or follow-up related.
Okay, and so it's possible more police officers being able to report incidents might increase the number? Is that
The higher our staffing, we expect our officers to be proactive.
Okay.
And so that would increase it.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, that's what I thought. And I guess in general, how would you describe the impact of a full-time detective on closure rates and just how officers are effective in the field in general? Because I know that that's something that we're on the bubble of either having or not having with the referendum and not referendum, things like that.
I think it has freed up officers to be more proactive, to be out there, able to make those traffic stops, able to go through those businesses, do those extra patrols, and so those proactive incident numbers, I believe, have increased drastically with the creation of the detective's position. Our clearance rates have always been very high, and so even with the detective, to see this reduction originally would bring concern. However, for the cases that have been assigned to the detective, he has been very successful in being able to focus on those investigations that have that high solvability rate, and track those leads down, and get those clearances on the major cases that are handed off to the detective. Most of our officers handle their own retail theft and larceny cases because they are normally pretty straightforward.
Right.
It doesn't require the detective's involvement. So I think overall, the detective position has really freed up our officers to be more proactive and to be out there in the community.
And one last one, does the change in how you're categorizing or reporting, does that comply with, because I'm familiar with different, you go online and you can see a crime blotter, and you can sort of like just Google Maps in a way over an area and see like what crimes have been reported. Are we a part of that type of a system where you can sort of hover over Delafield and see whether or not like who got arrested for what when? Not the person, but like an incident. Is that something that helps facilitate that, or is that?
The state does compile city-based crime reports. The most common blotters are actually usually put on by news outlets that will pull them from different sources. So this won't really give you like that, pinpoint accuracy of where crimes are being committed, but it will allow for greater detail in reporting at a still community-based level, so not necessarily neighborhood or specific business-based. But it will increase the detail that is available for statistics.
Yeah, I'm not interested in advertising. I'm just I like how the how transparent it is that you can, and I think our numbers look great. So.
Yeah. And these numbers will be readily available via the state and FBI websites once they're processed, which is usually on a yearly basis.
Great, thanks.
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe not for the prepared documentation, but how would you describe the morale of the police force in the city of Delafield currently?
Currently, especially after the success of the referendum, morale increased, I'd say significantly. It reduced the questions in the back of the minds about job stability and the stability of their partners' jobs, and that helped a lot. It really, really helped a lot. I think as everybody is hopefully with the vaccines and everything, seeing an end to the pandemic lifestyle we're in, and there's that light at the end of the tunnel there, and just getting back to normal. I think everybody's looking forward to that.
Good, love to hear it.
We all are.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to say thank you for the amazing work you do. You're incredibly proactive, and I am extremely proud of our police force, and so thank you. Keep it
Thank
up.
you.
And thank you for this report.
Thank you.
I think we all concur with Jackie. Great, well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to go out of order one more time and bring up 8A, the chamber. Welcome, ladies. Name and address, please.
Dawn Gielher, W309S2840, Majestic Court, Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Megan Bratz, 2216 Patrick Lane, Waukesha, Wisconsin. Okay, so with the pandemic last year, we decided, or it was decided upon, that we would come before Common Council to present our events. So we met I think we were on Common Council in August last year, and we decided to move forward with events starting with the Fall Art Walk. And we've been on track with all of our events since. So at our quarterly meeting with the city, we decided we decided twice a year, right? We're gonna come in before Common Council and go over our event packets. So today we are going to go over the Spring and Fall Art Walk and Block Party. We submitted event packets to which, do they have those or no? Yeah. Okay, to which you guys have, and then just answer any questions that you guys would have. Something to note, we've always done the Spring and Fall Art Walk utilizing the parking lot, I forget the name of the condos, but where Great Harvest to Eye Candy is. We will no longer be using that parking lot for the event, so that all just came to today, and so we will be then submitting a new map to the city utilizing Milwaukee Street to the corner of Dopkins, or presenting that to the city for the Spring and Fall Art Walk. And then for the block party, we submit an event packet for that as well, as we're confident by into July we're at a safe place to hold that this year.
Why are you no longer using the parking lot? The owner?
So in the past, many years prior to me, it was always utilized. Last year when we did the Wine Walk and Brew Fest, there was question on who actually owns the parking lot. And so Hendricks actually rents out the retail space of it, or leases the retail space of it, but the parking lot itself is actually owned by the condo association. So we had to submit into the condo association for approval of the parking lot. Unfortunately, the request and the financial and insurance that would be required to utilize that lot is not something we wish to pursue and move forward with. The other issue we always have downtown Delafield, of course, is a lot of our events are central to that area or on the Wells Street side. And so a lot of times we get that we don't host a lot of events on the Milwaukee street side. Also, that tends to be it tends to be easier to close from the corner at Clock Tower to Dobkins than Wells and some of these other ones. So, because it kind of loops around and it's closely municipal lot. So as far as hosting events, traffic, and parking, that particular small strip tends to work the best.
Thank you.
I just think it's a great opportunity for them to come twice a year, let us know what the plans are, and help promote the events to the people that are watching on YouTube or live on Channel 25.
It's great because I've had people asking me, can I go to the gym? What's coming? What's going to be open? And so I had seen the agenda, so I could tell them. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to have some of this coming back, and
In Chambers in Waukesha County, we actually just got a statement from the Waukesha Health Department that we'll be attaching to all of our events that essentially says that we're gonna do hand sanitizing stations, and so we're gonna be doing things, but ultimately wear a mask, don't wear a mask, socially distance to your comfort. So we're leaving it again to the citizens or the community who chooses to attend in their safety levels.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Looking forward to it.
Great, well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
overview.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And good success with all the events.
Good weather, well.
Okay, we will move on to 6A, Lake Welfare Committee. Phil?
Thank you, Ken. Lake Welfare meeting. The annual egg boiling will be coming up real soon, and we'll be looking for community support in that one. That's done in conjunction with the federal government, and then later on, Goose Roundup. Additionally, we are starting to evaluate or take a look at the possibility of the boat pier over there and the parameters for what's all required for that. Other than that, we're still waiting for that report, which should be here soon, we're told from the sewer pack folks. So it's misunderstood last time. I thought we had it on the desk, but apparently we're second in queue to actually get it, but it's no longer with the DNR. It's supposedly on its way. So that's it.
I can only hope so. I can
Just,
only hope
just in time
so.
for them to start the next one.
Was it like 7 years, I think?
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
I think it's about close.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Great, thank you very much. All right, we'll move to 6B, Library Board. Ms. Valdek.
That's me. Library Board met last Tuesday evening, and I wanted to just remind folks that the library is now open Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 6. It's the full building or the full library is open for browsing. They also have weekend hours, 9:30 to 2, and Sundays, 1 to 4. The library is also in process. I mentioned this last meeting. The library is in the process of getting 3 public computers hooked up and available for public use. We are in line waiting for a software installer, but we're hoping certainly by the end of the month, early April, we'll be able to have them up and running, and yeah, that's pretty exciting. So those are the couple of things. Our next meeting is the second Tuesday. We're still meeting via Zoom in the second Tuesday in April. I think it's the 13th. don't want us. So that's it.
Great, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, we will move on to Public Works Committee. Mr. Barron?
There was a meeting and 2 items on the agenda. One was the approval of the street repaving for this year, and the bids came in slightly under the budget, so that was moved forward. And then they reviewed the trails map and the Park and Rec's 5-year plan. I wasn't there for the meeting, so I regret not being there because I have lots of comments on it later. All good.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to 7, Mayor's Report. There's a notice here that Dennis Sobczak has resigned from the Promotion and Tourism Commission. We will move on to 8B, discussion of the 2020-2024 Park and Recreation Strategic Plan. This was requested by Phil and Jackie, so I'll let one of you two lead off the discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. I didn't want to get into the minutiae and the great details of it, but I did have a few questions regarding it. But I was also just hoping for an overview, since I wasn't present for the last 5-year plan to go through. I've been looking at the last 5-year plan for about a year now, and noting that they're long-range plans, and that's what I've been told, both face-to-face as well as when you read the plan. But I was just looking for some clarification as far as how quickly we're looking forward to move on these things when some of these things seem to be pretty long-range things. I've actually been told from some people in the Park and Rec that it's, these are like 40 years from now we expect to have these things done. And I didn't see any kind of scope in there as far as those kind of ranges. It does talk about, immediate or near future kind of things. One, in fact, being with, I guess I'll stop there and just see if I can get any clarification as far as how that procedure works. I assume Park and Rec is going to continue to work on this. It's an in-progress document, I understand that. And as that eventually just come to us as a final product that we evaluate to look at for purposes and projects and what we'd like to attack?
The capital, the vast majority of what's in here, over $750,000 in spending over the next 4 or 5 years, comes to the Common Council in the form of capital improvements and, approving that capital budgets. What I've told Park and Rec, and they don't need me to tell them because they've experienced it, through the duration of their existence, is that projects are at the discretion, obviously, of the Common Council. And so even though they've put together 5-year plans, based on the current, state of the city and the state of the council, projects are either approved or denied or moved based on those varying factors.
Okay.
So it's a plan. It's a what they could. It's a vision, I would say. And
okay, realizing that it is a fluid document, and I realize with the farms, what's the new
Hawthorne?
Hawthorne? Yeah, Hawthorne. The trail system that they want to put in there, that the developer want to put in, was just announced recently, and I know they just came out with this plan about the same time. So I'm kind of questioning some other things. For example, the plans in the packet for St. John's include the boat pier based on the plans from last year, which we actually voted down. Mm-hmm. So is that an oversight, or are they looking to?
No, we voted it down, but we voted it down for this budget year 4-3, but then we approved it for the next budget.
2022.
Yeah, 4-3.
Not the same plans that are in there, though, because those plans talk about.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So is that
and I was the swing vote on that, so I'll tell you my intention was that due to some indecision and discussion and argument between Lake Welfare and Park and Rec, and it seemed last minute, that I wanted to give an additional year for analysis and due process to fully vet the project before it comes before the council again.
Okay.
And the Lake Welfare Committee was tasked with with those duties per the minutes of that meeting.
Yes, yes.
And that's another area I'm going to look for some clarification on, because recently the Park and Rec folks didn't want to move to what the Lake Welfare Committee thought was a better place regarding the invasive species, something that would be more visible in the Clean Waters, Clean Boats sign. And Park and Rec came here, as a matter of fact, and asked for us to reconsider that. And if it's over the water, we thought, if it involved water, I thought that included, the Lake Welfare Committee stuff. And now we're looking at the boat pier, which is also now over the water, but including.
Yeah, and your concerns are very valid.
So
And there's this
I don't know
your concerns are valid, and it's pertinent, because there absolutely is an undercurrent of where does Park and Rec end and where does Lake Welfare begin. It's a pier on the lake that goes into a park. So who has jurisdiction? And
Both.
obviously,
They got to work together.
they got to work together. Exactly. Right answer. Right answer. So, that's just one of, a couple issues where there's multi-jurisdictional entities looking to solve the problem to the benefit of the citizens.
There might be, there were a couple things. I thought this was a really thoughtful document. I've read through most of it a couple of times over the weekend. And I really loved just the opening statements about strengths and weaknesses and goals. And I have a firm philosophy that if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it. So you really do want to have goals, whether they get budgeted or not. Eventually they might, and then you can refine them. And I do like the idea very much of pulling down the silos between different, especially Parks and Rec and Lake Welfare, because you guys do cross-pollinate, to continue with metaphors. But it's so that I love. I'm wondering, I didn't see it in here, and one of the things that might help inform a decision about up here and where and how big would be the DNR's position because of the lake depth and the spawning grounds, especially where you're looking on that part of the bay. And I'm no expert, but I'm just wondering maybe that would be a place to inform how it is approached.
I would absolutely agree with that. That was one of the missing pieces of information.
But it was very
last
upfront
year.
in the document.
That's
yeah,
right.
that and I appreciated it. I also thought of a couple of other questions to ask on page it's 43 through 46 in the welfare packet. The way the way it's in our e-packet. It talked about, the image shows 6 slips on the little drawing, which is the one that we saw in the fall, but the document talks about 13 slips, and that's more than double the size. So I wasn't sure if that was just, again, I realize it's a proposal. The two interesting things is one of the weaknesses the Parks and Rec talked about was a lack of adequate staff to monitor and maintain trails and everything. And we know that because it is hard. But we're going to add to it if we add piers. So I think that's important. So I guess the thing would be like maybe the DNR's view on that. And one other question, well, actually I have 2. One is other nearby communities. What have they experienced? That have like public piers near homes and things. What are their viewpoints? Just so that we have data like walking in. And there was a very interesting thing somewhere on page 51. It was $200,000 for a bathroom at, I think it's Bleecker Street. And my house is close to Bleecker Street, so I can walk to my bathroom, but I'm just kidding. But it seemed like a lot of money. And
I get that a lot. And all these
$200,000.
They wanted $50,000.
Jackie, the long story short is the porta potty's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
That's what's there.
All we need to do is change the color to like an off green, and I'm sold.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to see that bathroom. So Jim, I know you had questions.
Well, I was going to comment a little more in general. Somebody made the point a couple of years ago while we're cutting trees that if you pull the plan from 30 years ago, it's amazing, almost everything in there was built. But it took that long, and I think some of these specifics, they're just placeholders. And, I think it's not settled that what that pier is going to look like or whatever, but I also think this thing really has a lot of stuff in it because a lot of people really made an effort to make it kind of a living document, and that's to their credit. And I'd say there are probably chances 20-30% of it won't be around in our lifetime, but you leave it on the table because you never know, someone might want to donate a $200,000 bathroom, and we can say it's in the plan. And with that said, I'm kind of focusing on some of the trail stuff, and one comment I was going to make way around page 43 or 44 somewhere, and don't look for that one. Maybe it was 72. It didn't have a trail from Hillside Drive to Indian Springs area, and on page 13 of the plan, it's on there. So there's some inconsistencies, and they are showing up. And since we just got a dedication, that's a great example where we should nail it down now, because 5 years from now, when we finally figure out how to build it, all those neighbors will say, "Oh, we don't remember anything about that." And, I think it's important that these things are in the map so you can refer to it. So there's a couple other small, and so I guess it's a process question. If I have additional ideas on trails, or some other people do, how do we, at this point, bring it forward? Because I'm not on Park and Rec now. As I said, if I were in Public Works, I probably brought it up, but.
So I would say, given the current environment, that's kind of moved now over to a different committee, right? We have a budget and we have a plan with Public Works Committee, which you're on. So therefore, it might be quite easy for you to bring up those discussion points. Remember, that's the baseline from that Park and Rec created, and Public Works is going to take it to the more of the timeline, focus, implementation, value for your money. These types of conversations as to the rest of the process.
Right. Because there are a few, and people may not agree with me on some of this stuff, but we have some unbuilt right-of-ways for streets where I think there's trail potential. And I don't see them on here, but I have a small list. And for example, at the end of Lapham Peak, that new subdivision, Ruff's Reserve, there's this right-of-way that runs down towards the Lake Country Bike Trail. Years ago, it was wide open. The neighbors have let the trees grow in. It used to be easy to walk through there, even drive a bike. And I think that there's a quick hit. And I mean, for a whole neighborhood to have access and get them off, or make a loop out of Devonshire. This one would be billed as a conflict of interest, but you have a sidewalk going to the end of Parkway, which is at the end of Leaker. There's no extension on this map. Now,
That sounds like a perfect
you ask my
one.
brother, he says, we'll never build that for them. And I said, well, it's going to be on the map. Well,
I'd get it on the Public Works map, because that, that map is a guideline, right? And
I think
it's a
there's
year and a couple months late, so it's really only a 3-year, 10-month plan, and we'll start in a year and a half on the new 5-year plan.
Well, so my point is that I think there's some others that, I've heard the idea of running the path up Highway C to Carriage Hills, which will give you an opportunity to get to Arlington, which I think is a great idea. But out of Copperfield, there's an old right-of-way that goes right to Carriage Hills. And it used to be open. And, is that an opportunity for a path? These aren't things you have to accommodate drainage or, traffic or crossings. And so there are little nits like that I think we should try and look at. And a sunset up to a Poplar Path. It was missed during the development. And that's private land now, but I think if it's there, maybe at some point you can get a dedication.
I think those are great ideas.
These are little.
They're little small.
200 or 300 pieces of asphalt, not over drainage ditches or culverts, and all of a sudden the whole neighborhood.
A lot of them were previously previously used as quasi-pass already,
Yeah.
and they're non-controversial because they've
For the
already
most part,
been.
they would be, yeah.
Exactly, and I think those are great small wins for.
So and I have a few of those I'd like to, suggest. My thought is that others that know other areas of the city, especially where they would be really economical to build. That's the way I'm looking at them, how we can get bang for the buck.
Yeah, I agree, that's a great
And,
idea. And paths are, by their nature, controversial.
Yeah.
And so I'd want to express that every path in here is up for debate.
Yep.
As it is every time we talk about paths,
No, I know,
as
but
it should be.
It has to be on the list first. But I will say that in the end, they do contribute to value in general.
I agree.
And because people are seeking homes where they can walk, and you can see the ones we've built. And just today on Milwaukee Street, there were about 5 couples on a Monday morning. And they're using these things, and people come along and pay more for the house that's near it. And it may be right on it, maybe not, but a block away.
Nope, I agree.
And Jim, following that line of thinking about adding some things, one thing I know is definitely not in there because it's a very recent development, is with the Hendricks purchase of St. John's Military Academy, the north side of the Bark River is heavily used by a lot of people. Not to mention they also have on the south side, and I don't know if they use it, an archery range and several new tennis courts, and I don't know if there's any discussions, and I'm not sure which direction.
No, that's a very good point, because right now it's hampered by private land, but at some point when you get a development proposal, those are things that are on the list, that you gain that access. And so it's great if you can think of it, it should be embedded here. And again, with the caveat, it may never be built. And there may be another route that's built that's better. But
because to be clear, this plan doesn't get modified, correct? It's already been adopted.
It's already been adopted, right?
I mean, I should say.
It doesn't mean things can't be added as we move along, right? This is a moment in time, right? Otherwise, it's a perpetual living document, constantly always updated, and that's not the idea of the 5-year plan. Right.
So are new ideas just dealt with in committee?
New ideas, like when the development happens, take those opportunities, right? Maybe we don't have the 5-year plan to refer back to, but it doesn't mean we still can't have the discussion.
And the Hendricks property, the Bark River on the north side, is a perfect example. It's already used as a path today. I walk it all the time. However, having said that, Hendricks, if they decide to develop, they might want to put condos and stick them into that big forest, and they don't want a path in their backyard. They want to look out onto the river, which would negate that path, or could negate that path.
Right.
And so
Jim's point,
it's very flexible. It's very fluid.
Right.
The premise is, yes, as Jim said, we want paths. We want them because they're good for our residents. They increase property values.
Safety.
They're safe,
Safety.
absolutely.
To me, that's the number one.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to just add a couple things. First committee appointment I had about 12 years ago was on Park and Rec, and you get to know the corners of the city because there's parks in different areas. And I helped with the 5-year plan, 2 5-year plans ago. And I even got a couple legacy pictures in here where my kids are still in there, where I went and looked and took pictures and stuff. But there's the Park and Rec Commission is kind of this orphan little guy over on the side that comes up with all these brilliant ideas and very creative, and they're a very hardworking, industrious group. And I think they've realized over time that certain things take a long time to come to fruition. Like one real simple one was in Bostrom Park that's in here, and there's a picture in here with this. It's just this little berm that's a quote little tot sledding hill. So there was talk about, hey, maybe we put a backstop in for softball or something in there. And so I combined, Tim Turnock talked, I talked, my wife gave some input too, unpaid city official. But we leveraged the path on Highway C to take dirt from there, and it cost about $3,500 to put in this little berm. I forgot all about it. By the time I got done, it was 7 years later. And the neighbors were like, what's going on in the park? Why are you putting all this dirt in there? Well, the kids used it immediately. They didn't need to know what it was for. They just showed up. But I see another dozen ideas in here, just glancing through this, like a basketball court and bathrooms in the fish hatchery, tucked away there. Putting these things as placeholders and trails and different ideas for parks in different regions and how to connect them are great tools. As I've went from Park and Rec to Public Works and Plan Commission and still on council, you get to leverage these things when developers say, here's what I want to do. It's like, well, if you're doing that, this has been on the back burner for a long time. Help us with this, and maybe this is all going to connect. And so this all helps. So to say that because this is adopted or passed means that there's going to be a pier there with 16 slips or whatever is hardly ever the case. This is a concept. This is an idea. We need a place for people to get from the lake to downtown, and other things like that are really helpful for Public Works and for Plan Commission to connect these things. So this is. I thought this was great. And there's a lot of great new things in here. And another point to make is I like the fact, and I don't think it's been in here before, or at least the prior iterations of the Park and Rec plan, where they put a couple of tables in here with spreadsheets on the short-term numbers. I think that's real helpful.
The mayor asked for that.
I think that's real helpful because it shows you how practical some of these things are and how we can squeeze them in and just make them reality. And something to highlight on a couple of them are things like at Lois Jensen Park, where there's NA as far as budget amounts, because there's people like Dave Brabson that solicit the help from local, Boy Scouts or school groups to do the mulching and make it a field trip. So there's a lot of work that gets done around here in the Park River Trail group that doesn't impact the budget. So it's built in, it's baked in, and this is good work.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I wanted a year ago, but it's hard to put a pole in the ground and say we're done, because it does continue and things change. Like the sale of St. John's happened. Well, should we postpone the adoption of this plan because we've got a different way to look? No, just keep rolling, and these things, it's a work in progress. So
And to
I
Tim's
appreciate
point,
all the work that went into this.
I can't take credit or fault for it. Mostly, I can't take credit for it. It's a good plan. And as Tim said, there's no line item in there for Friends of the Bark River, but when Chris Smith and virtually everybody out here on this council has been out there clearing buckthorn over the last 5-10 years, that's the kind of great people you have on Park and Rec.
Yeah. And there's also no gift that doesn't come with a price. So like Cushing Park, that was a gift from the community and local businesses. We've got to maintain it, that fort.
Absolutely.
Go try to wrestle 6 kids under 6 when you move in here in year 2000. And you find a place where there's a fence around it, 3 of them can run around, and you don't have to look. They're in a cage, but there's tons of stuff to do.
Right.
It was a blessing for us when we moved here.
Careful.
I want to.
That raises property values in my neighborhood by like 10%.
Kids in cages. But we need to keep these in mind when we look at our annual budget too. Like someone mentioned, more trails means more work, more upkeep. So these are kind of catch-22s, but these are, anyways. I think it's a great plan.
It is. It's
And
extremely.
thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate everybody talking about it, because I think it really merited. It's a really thoughtful document, and I appreciate the hard work. There's so many smart people working for free for this town. It's great.
If I can just, one last clarification for me to know how to handle that with, or how to take it back to Lake Welfare Committee, and not sure if Matt, if you can address it. Under the long-term vision for the St. John's Park, I'm not following what this means. Consider other alternatives to connect and link boating access between St. John's Bay and downtown Delafield. Consider other alternatives to connect.
They're thinking Bleecker Street, putting the,
No,
that's what they're
Park.
implying there, putting a dock there.
Okay.
Yeah, and how about a joint meeting between Park and Rec and Lake Welfare, maybe once a year? That was not an enjoyable dispute over a sign. So
Yeah.
just my thoughts on that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We will move on to 8C, approval of the voucher list.
I move to approve the voucher list.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we will move on to 9A, City Administrator Tom.
Yeah, just a reminder that tomorrow evening we will have another public meeting here in the council chambers at 7 o'clock. That'll be a joint meeting between the Common Council and the Plan Commission. And it's going to be specific to looking into a planning process for a mini strategic plan for the city of Delafield and economic development, possibilities of tweaks to the land use plan as one tool to look at solving our budget deficit issue. We will be doing a SWOT analysis and visual preference survey as part of that. Common Council members and Plan Commission members should have received some questions to think about this afternoon by email. Those would have came from our city clerk. He forwarded those from our city planner. And you know, largely they center around putting some thought into our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for that SWOT analysis coming into the meeting tomorrow. So if you have a chance, do a little bit of thought on those questions before the meeting. Otherwise, we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Any questions about that? We good? All right, sounds good. All right, we'll move on to 9C, City Clerk.
Just a couple quick reminders about the election that's coming up on April 6th. This Wednesday, March 17th, is the last day for people to register to vote online, or register to vote online on the MyVote website. So if you know anybody that still needs to register to vote, update their name or address. This Wednesday is the last day they can do that. After that, they have to do it in the clerk's office or at the polling site. Absentee voting, in-person absentee voting is going to start next Tuesday, the 23rd. That goes through April 2nd. It's the weekdays from 8 to 4:30, and then we're open till 5 on April 2nd, that Friday before. Absentee ballots are going out tomorrow. We have about 461 of them to send out. And the last day to request one is April 1st, the Thursday before the election. However, the sooner the better. And then just lastly, polls are open on April 6th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's at Christ the King Lutheran Church, 1600 Genesee Street in the gym. And we will be conducting the absentee processing here in City Hall.
So question, Steve.
Sure.
So if you're an absentee voter, and I understand that if you don't return absentee ballots after a certain period of time, you might be dropped. Is there, if somebody if someone received an absentee ballot for the presidential election in fall, and didn't return a ballot for the superintendent election back in February, or the primary, would they expect to receive one for this next election?
It's not an automatic thing,
Okay.
so I have to send out a letter following up with the person to see if they still want to continue.
Gotcha, okay.
And I
So you
didn't do that after the November
So
election.
you get like a warning letter if you didn't?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And I do intend to do that after this upcoming election, because we don't have any more for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, we'll do 9D, correspondence. I'll refer you to the letter in your packet. And then 9E, council request for future agenda items. Any items?
No, actually, I do have one more question though. So on our calendar, we show a common council meeting on April 19th, but the election's April 6th. So when's our last? Usually we have an organizational meeting in here someplace. When is that?
That would be the day after. So
The day-
Tuesday is your first full day of your term.
So
April
Tuesday.
20th.
Okay, gotcha.
So April 19th is the last meeting of the term for this term.
Okay, so if I lose to write-in, I have until the 19th.
Yep,
Yes.
you come
Okay.
on the 19th,
All
you'll
right.
come the next day.
Just checking.
11:59 p.m. would be.
Okay, very
So
good.
what day would the organizational meeting be then, the 20th?
Typically that Tuesday. So you have back-to-back meetings.
Is that the 20th?
20th. Yes.
Okay. Okay, seeing no further business, we are now adjourned at 8:54. Thank you, everyone.
7:54?
7:54.
The only things I can.